Tournament talk.
Okay, well, let me grab some baits.
Stall.
I'm live.
Stall them out, Mortimer.
What's up, everybody? We got Alex Shmay today from St Croix Rods, and we're going to be talking the new Legend Tournament starting right now on Tackle Shop Live. What's up, Logan? How you doing, buddy? Jamie Johnson, how you doing, Jamie? Man, we got a great show for you guys tonight. Thanks, everybody, for stopping in. Jack Hinkle, how you doing, pal? Mike Hayer, what is up? Dan Swaggart, how you doing, buddy? Man, I'll tell you right now, we had an incredible week last week with the Cabin Fever sale. Thank you guys so much for that. Chuck Reif, how you doing? Kevin Geezy, Ed Rednoski, what's up, brother? Always hanging in with us. All right, man. Absolutely. Logan, how you doing? Paul Batters, what's up, buddy? Yeah, man, that's great. William Barnes, how are you, William? Good to see you guys. Yeah, we had a heck of a week last week. We had bunch of guys here for our sale, the Cabin Fever sale. It was really nice seeing all you guys that we don't see too often. They come from all over, Alex. Come to the tackle to the tackle show, and man, we had a great bunch of guys here. We had a bunch of reps here working for us and helping out. Nick Wink, cameraman Nick was there. And by the way, Nick's here. Nick Wink. George is here today. Somewhere right there's George.
Still prepping, people.
I said earlier, Alex Shmay from St Croix Rods is here.
I got the winning baits.
We're gonna go over all of.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
Is everybody hearing us all right out there?
We good? Can you hear us? Yeah, everybody can hear us. They can all hear us. With Caitlin call?
Yeah.
She can't hear us. Get a new computer, Kate.
There's a volume button for a reason.
There it is.
So, Mike, you're talking about Cabin Fever sale.
Yeah.
What was that exciting?
Man, we had a heck of a crowd here. We had some great seminars. We had some great seminar speakers that were here. We had Alex Davis. Man, what a great guy. And if you guys saw us last week on Tackle Shop Live, he was here doing that episode, which was a lot of fun. I know you saw it.
I saw it.
Yeah, and we had a lot of fun with that. And we had the guys from Shimano were here. And man, we had, I don't know who all we had. We had guys from Seagar Line were here. They were helping out. But anyway, it was just great to see all you guys who stopped in and took advantage of the great sale that we had. We sold a ton of stuff, and we'd like to thank you guys all for that. Don Roeder, how you doing? Bill McDermott, what do you say, Bill? Bill was here last night. Long time.
Tell David this is the St. Croix version of Corbin.
Yeah, right. Corbin's absent today. He has an excuse. He has to work. So we got the St. Croix version of Corbin over here with Alex, and this is the day that we're going to talk about the St. Croix Legend Tournament, the new release of the redesigned Legend Tournament. So we're going to get into that just here in a minute.
Wait a minute. Time out. This isn't Jesse Wiggins?
No, it's not Jesse Wiggins. I know.
I thought Jesse Wiggins was coming in tonight.
I know.
I shaved, so no one would think that he didn't make the cut. And He was able to buzz up here, but,
True, right? True.
but then he didn't make the cut anyway. So sorry, Jesse.
Yeah.
Alex, if you're filling in for Corbin, can you do David Frick's impersonation?
No, he does Jesse Wiggins impersonations.
Yeah.
There you go.
I didn't bring the coast in. They're in the truck.
I was going to grab the sign off the St. Croix rack to show the similarities between the two. It's really uncanny.
It is.
It's really uncanny.
It is uncanny.
So Corbin's working. He's selling his kitchens and doing what he has to do, but he's going to be back here once he gets settled in his new job, and he'll be back a lot more often. But he pops in occasionally. We have a nice little deal with him. But anyway, we have part of this whole St. Croix launch is the launch of the Legend Tournament, which is going to happen tomorrow.
That's right.
Nationwide. You guys launched them at the Classic.
We did a marketing launch of the Classic. Typically, when we do these new series this time of year, it's right with the Classic, but just the way of the world these days, with everything being a little bit behind, we did a marketing launch and got to show them off down there a little bit. But we will go full blown live tomorrow in coordination with the Red Crest event.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys are all set up down to Red Crest, and the sale of the rod starts tomorrow. We're going to have a launch party here, and that's what I want to announce for you guys who haven't heard. We are having a St. Croix Legend Tournament launch party here in the shop from 3:00 p.m. to 6:00 p.m. or longer, depending on how much adult beverages are left over. But Alex is going to be here. We're going to have pizza, right, Alex?
Got it.
And we're going to hang out. And we're going to show you the new rods. We're going to be able to hold them, flip them in your hand, and purchase them tomorrow, because that's the opening of the purchasing nationwide, and we're one of the dealers that are going to be doing that, taking advantage of that launch. We have every model that's available in the store.
Correct.
No,
No?
we're missing about 5 models.
We are missing 5 models.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have just about all the models that are available.
But we got all the popular models.
Yeah.
The 5 that we're missing are like
Questionable.
fringe models.
Yeah. So we got all the good stuff. Anyway, and we're going to get into some of those rods tonight with Alex and talk.
We always have the good stuff.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about what makes this rod different from the old famous Legend Tournament, right? Because that's a legendary rod.
Oh, it's been around for
Everybody
longer
loves it.
than I have.
Yeah, things been great, over the years, and it's just been a durable, hardcore rod, and a lot of people loved it. And I think that the scary part with that, every time a new rod comes out, is they're going to mess with it. It's not going to be as good. Well, we had them in our hands. We've been flipping them out. Me and George have been flipping around for the last couple of days, and they absolutely nailed
Want a
it.
hit of that? Want to do a line of power bait?
It's not a weird flavor. I'm okay.
That's the thing about power bait. At first it's like this horrible smell. Then you start catching fish on, and it's
Yeah,
like
it starts to smell good.
it becomes like this drug. I love it. I love it.
Nick, you need a hit of power bait.
I use that scent for deodorant.
Yeah, I wake up in the morning and put a little dab behind my ears, because it wouldn't be right, But at first everybody was gagging on. Now everybody loves that smell because the stuff's so good and it catches fish. But anyway, let's get into this Legend Tournament and what this is all about, and what St. Croix was going for, and whys, and the technology and some of that stuff. So I guess we want to start with just a spinning rod.
Well, first off,
go ahead. Yeah, what it's all about.
Yeah, first off, I'm going to say thanks to these guys, because, again, with the way of the world and the way things are in the manufacturing industry right now, fishing side of manufacturing, these guys put an order in before they even had a chance to lay hands on them, just by pure blind faith. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you got it.
Well, don't worry, Alex. If we didn't like them, you were. See, the thing you gotta understand about this relationship here, St. Croix in Wisconsin. Alex is about 10 minutes up the street. So if we wouldn't have liked it, we would have just took him up to his house.
Drop them off.
So thank you for trusting. Thank you for having me here tonight.
Absolutely.
But as far as you said about it being the long-lasting series for us, so yeah, of course, there's some not fear, but everything. When things change, people get a little bit nervous.
Absolutely.
So as soon as I had them in my hands, I drove right down here. I said, "You guys got to check these out." And I think
Yeah.
We looked at the 6.8 MXF right off the bat, and we all kind of said, wow, okay.
Yeah, legit.
Yeah.
Legit.
Yeah.
Well, I think the number one thing to recognize is in the last 10 years, the rod industry has been on steroids. The materials have changed. Everything used to make a rod has come up.
Yeah.
In technology, because that's how United States is. United States is a technology-driven, bionic man, lighter, faster, stronger country. We do everything. We always are trying to. Well, in the last 10 years, it's been super, noticeable. And like in St. Croix Company, there's 2 points I want to make here. In the St. Croix Company, their rod lines have advanced in leaps and bounds. If you don't know anything about the rod building process and you have an old Mojo and you picked up a second generation Mojo, there was a massive weight difference, so on and so forth. The only thing that really didn't change much was the Avid. But everything got lighter than the premier tournament series in the lineup, which was Legend Tournament. Legend Tournament, which has always been a premier tournament rod series for them. Bass, it's their original Bass technique specific tournament series, with some of their most advanced, they invented some technologies for that. The advanced reinforcing technology, the IPC, that all occurred on that rod. But, the other rods surpassed it as far as from a weight perspective. So, this was the next logical step. And the other point I want to make is, and you being in the industry, you probably are very acutely aware of this, our customer base is phenomenally knowledgeable on tackle in general, but on rods. I mean, we have customers that come in here that are dialed in on rods. They understand carbons, they understand, tapers, they understand power, they understand a lot of things about rods. So as a rod manufacturer, you guys are doing a much better job of telling the story of all your ART, IPC, FRC, blah, 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 as evidenced by our last show a couple of weeks ago when we had Derek Hudnall on. And, excuse me, but I forget. Ryan, yeah. That's right, Ryan. Sorry, yeah. Ryan. Yeah. I know you're watching. I forgot. But Ryan and Derek did a really good job of explaining all your little code lingos, which, every company has. And it's important to understand that if you're like our customer base, who is our guys are sophisticated rod shoppers.
Yeah.
They know what they want.
Right.
So, we thought it was appropriate to bring you on for a small segment tonight and have you kind of tell us what happened to Legend Tournament, why it is now feels so much lighter. And that's my way of setting you up.
Well, you made a really good point, especially with the launch of Victory last year. That came out, brand new technology in that rod, and we all said it in the factory when that came out, like, well, we have to do something with tournament now. This is such a good rod, and of course there's some things that were already more beneficial with tournament the way it stood, with SE4 carbon and premium components and all kinds of things that make that rod what it was. But from the pure weight factor, which a lot of people measure as quality of a rod, is how much does it weigh? It was such a leaps and bounds when we went to SC3 Plus in Victory that we knew we had to do something similar. So the main driving thing here between the old version and the current version that we're going to launch tomorrow is SC4 Plus, which the plus in this is, I think you guys got into carbons a little bit.
We did
a couple weeks ago with everyone, so we won't rehash that, but we have our own proprietary carbons. We have 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we use 6, and 6 standalone can't be a rod. It's too fragile, but it's phenomenal as a reinforcing layer. So when you look at a Legend rod, it's SC5, SC6, and we can add it to a rod, makes it very strong, but doesn't add weight to the rod. So anyway, we did that. We added 6 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
So Avid X being 3.
Yep.
We added basically 6 to those, lightened them up quite a bit.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the way it was explained to us a couple weeks ago, it's kind of like a lengthwise ART. 6 is kind of laid in there this way.
Right. Yep. And we'll
to
ART,
enhance, to strengthen it without having to add more 3 or 4
I'm
or
going to
5.
say right, and then tomorrow I'll have an email from one of the engineers saying no. But I'm pretty sure you're right. I think that's the way Ryan explained it last week.
He did.
And then ART, which is our reinforcing technology.
Goes that way.
Exactly. It goes perpendicular to the
Right.
fiber strands. And we use that strategically in different places to just give it more power or more strength and stress points, whatever.
We're just been picking your brain because we're about to launch our own rod company, SFT Croix,
Okay.
and it's going to be some similarities there.
Gotcha. Well, unless you managed to hire Jason Brunner away from us, I'm not sure.
That was the easy part.
Yeah.
We got pictures from a couple years ago when we were out partying.
I got him for $1. Then.
Yeah.
We got them. We got them.
Hold up there, he says. Hold up. Let's talk about this.
So SC4, we went down the same road here. Took SC4, which was the carbon that we used in the tournament all these years, and we added SC6 to it. Now we have SC4 plus. So that's really am I not talking loud enough?
They want to hear you better.
Okay. So really that's the base of this, and really where all the series, or the entire series is based on that. Now, we did something else, and we'll look at these rods here in a second, with our cranking rods, moving bait rods, and that is iAct glass. And this is something that is also brand new for this series. And I think a lot of people are familiar with our Legend glass rods, our Mojo Bass glass rods. They make great chatterbait rods and great crankbait rods, and we've got rods for virtually every style of moving bait that you would want to use a glass rod for. And then of course we've got carbon crankbait rods as well in Mojo, in Victory. But this is the first time that we've deviated in a new style here. So this is not a composite rod. So a lot of manufacturers out there make great composite.
Light.
It's very light. Yeah.
Well, that's a big major point right there.
Right.
It's not
composite.
a composite rod.
Right.
And that's the big point right there with this.
So there's some great composite crankbait rods out there, and there's some great 100% linear S-glass rods like we make, and there's some great pure carbon rods as well.
Mm.
The difference here is that we took our linear S-glass and we took SC4 plus, which is 2 different types of carbon, and we more or less sandwiched them together to get iAct glass. And the iAct stands for internally active glass. And the best way I can explain what that means is that we can do things with this and we can put it where we want, where when you have a composite, the main material is glass and carbon together.
Right.
It's not like we did, you can have the carbon here and glass here. It's together the whole length of the blank.
Sure.
With this, we can say, well, we want more carbon down here for power. We want more glass up in the tip for the action of the rod. But basically, we've got different layers of carbon, different layers, a single layer of glass. They're not mixed together in any way. They are separate, so we can be strategic.
Like a sandwich.
Like a sandwich, yeah.
So
I
this
could
is
say where's the cheese and where's the bread, but it's
right.
They're together.
So this
Sure.
is your rip and chatter.
Right.
And, we've had some spirited debates here on Tackle Shop Live about glass or carbon for chatterbait fishing. Matter of fact, we did it again last week with Alex Davis, whose name of his guide service is the Spinnerbait Kid. But he said on tour he should be called the Chatterbait Kid because he makes his money on a chatterbait. And we discussed glass, we discussed carbon, we discussed composite. So now we have another player.
Yeah.
We have SC4 plus carbon combined with iAct glass. So we have a carbon glass, and this thing has it's actually technically labeled as a moderate taper. and I think it's a pretty fair.
It's
I
different.
think that's a pretty fair
it's
assessment.
it's extremely different.
But man, the back of this thing.
Yeah.
So I'm grabbing it. I'm grabbing it about a little more than a third of the way down, and I'm bending from the reel seat to the middle. And I'm jacking this thing. This thing has got
It's got a lot of
balls.
So the best explanation I've heard of these, there's 3 rods in the series that have eye-act. And I think the best explanation I got was from Ryan, because he's very much in tune with this whole testing process. And when it comes to bass rods, I don't do much testing for St. Croix, which is fine.
Talking to that mic.
I can hear myself in my earphones, but they can't
I
hear
don't
me.
know.
Huh?
Some people are saying they can't.
No, he's good, George.
Just talking to that mic. See if it makes any difference.
So the best explanation I got was that the tip will feel a lot like glass when you're fishing it. It'll move the bait the way you want it to. When a fish grabs it, it'll pin them up and it's not going to let go. But when you really put the power behind it and you need to get them out of the weeds, or you need to get them wrestle a 5-pounder to the boat,
Yeah.
is when you're really going to feel it's almost like a change in the way the blank feels. It's almost going to feel like it's not a fast action rod, but in the tip, it's going to feel a little bit fast. But then when you really load it up is when that glass, it's going to feel a lot like a glass rod.
Yeah.
The whole way down through the bed end of the butt, And so
Yeah.
it's kind of got that. It's a weird, unique blend. To our knowledge, no one else is building I'll use the word composite because there's not another way to really say it, but a blend of carbon and glass in this manner. It is a composite for most of the others. So this is unique, and I think it gives the rods a pretty dynamic feel. The great thing is it makes them really light, and it makes them a thin diameter, which is what a lot of people want, especially people that are turned off by pure glass, that look at it and say, it's kind of a big rod. But it feels a lot like our glass rods do. In fact, you guys have had Jesse Wiggins here. He's a big fan of Legend Glass. And I got the word that he was fishing them today, and he's a huge fan of these new ones. And we're going to be working on getting more of those orange rods swapped out for him on these. So.
Well, we got a guy here asking about what rod would be the best one for the big bladed chatterbait. And I think that's the rod we just had in our hand. It's called the Rip and Chatter. It's a 7.2 heavy moderate, George.
I got the wrong one here. Let me borrow this for a minute. It's a 7.2 heavy power moderate action. It's called the Rip and Chatter, and it's rated for up to 1.25 ounces. So this is going to handle all of your chatterbaits, not just your big blade, but it's going to handle your full range of chatterbaits, as well as a spinnerbait, as well as a big crankbait. I wouldn't have a problem in the world throwing a big crankbait on this rod. I mean, to be honest with you, you could throw a 10x, no, not a 10xD, you could throw an 8xD on this rod. 6xD for sure. So this is a versatile, retrieve type bait rod, contact bait rod. This is a very versatile rod like that. So
I'd throw that big bladed son of a gun on there, no problem.
all day long. All day long.
And I don't know, man. This is the time of the year for that big bladed chatterbait too.
Well, we have this conversation a lot, too much, about chatterbaits. The reason is it's probably the hottest, most popular lure in the country today, which is
absolutely.
Which is hard to believe because it's been well over a decade since the chatterbait came out, and it's like always at the top of the hit parade. I mean, it's a fish catching thing. So we're constantly talking about the best rods, the best lines, the best reels, and as we've come to the conclusion numerous times, and involving a ton of fishing, there isn't a best. There's a lot of really good choices, and at the end of the day, learn the equipment that you've decided on with your technique, and that's going to be the best for you, and then maybe try another rod just to make sure, you know what I'm saying?
Yep. So for everybody tuning in right now, This is Alex I'm sorry, not Alex Davis. Alex Shmay from St Croix Rods, and we are here talking about the launch of the new Legend Tournament series, and we're going over some of the different rods that are coming out and some of the changes involved there. So for you guys just tuning in, that's where we're at with this whole thing, and we are having a launch party here at the shop from 3 to 6 tomorrow night, Friday night. Tomorrow night here, Alex is going to be back here again in the shop, and we are going to do a launch party where the whole public is going to be able to buy and purchase these rods and get them in their hands and feel them. It's a nationwide launch. It's happening at the Red Crest, and that's why we're jumping on this thing, because everybody's doing it.
Yeah, we're actually not putting our rods out for sale until tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, our webpage is dark. St. Croix has a time, and a lot of companies are doing this. In case you guys are wondering, why we don't do this or why we don't do that with a lot of products. So you have your iCast, and then you have your big Bassmasters Classic. They're kind of like the two big launch times of the year. And a lot of times we talk about a product, we do videos on a product, we have special guests in on a product, but we don't sell the product because the company has, they have timelines. We actually, in a lot of cases, we have to sign non-disclosures. They want to keep it hush-hush until a certain day, and then they have a procedure for launching the product. And as Alex said earlier, in today's day and age, like they would have loved to have launched this product at the Bassmasters Classic. They had everything in place except for one thing.
No
the product.
No
now, our stuff showed up here about a week ago.
Yeah.
So, but that, I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that we ordered them the second that they were available. So, I mean, we got them here, but, and that's another thing that's a reality. It takes a few days to process these rods to get them prepared to put out for sale. So tomorrow we're going to go live on the web. We're going to go live in the shop. We're going to be shaking rods, talking techniques.
Yeah.
And then at 3 o'clock, Alex is going to come over, and he's buying the beer and the pizza and the soda pops, and then we're going to talk at depth.
Yeah. So,
right,
Alex, all the guys who fish tournament and have their favorite rods, most of those rods are kept, but they're like we said, they're tweaked. They feel different. And you guys need to come in and feel these rods to really see what it's all about. It's amazing the job that you guys did with it. It's amazing the process, and it's amazing that that it's totally different, but yet it's not. It's a tournament rod. It's built for tournament fishing, but yet it feels the kind of the same actions and everything, but it's lighter, and that's going to turn into more sensitivity out in the water.
Yeah, I think it was just a week or two ago I was asking you guys, who's the general person for you that walks in the shop and buys that? And you've said since it's the beginning, it's been the tournament guy.
It has been.
It's the guy that wants a tough rod, that wants something that's sensitive, that he can rely on. And I think you said in all the years that you've been selling those, you've never had a single one of them come back broken because they're just a tough rod.
They are.
And I think people that come in that love that rod to begin with are going to be pretty pleasantly surprised because it's going to feel a lot like the same actions that they're used to.
Yeah.
But it's going to feel lighter. It's going to be that next generation. It's going to be what had to happen with the rod, and I think people are going to be really a fan of it.
Well, you had some of those rods in action last week at the Elite Series on Santee Cooper.
Yeah.
And they were catching studs.
They did okay.
I mean, there was
yeah, they did.
There was like there was at least 2, if not 3, dirty 30 sacks weighed in. There was 3 or 4 or 500 century belts.
Yeah.
They were busting them in. One of your guys, Caleb Coupal, was a top 10er.
Mm-hmm. We had 2 in the top 10.
Yeah, you did. But Caleb was fishing your blue rod, your Legend Tournament.
Yep. Yeah. He ended up second.
He got a century belt.
Yeah.
He was flipping. He was the first one to cross that 100-pound, and he was flipping a half-ounce jig on one of the new Legend Tournament rods. I couldn't tell from the picture which model it was.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
It's probably like a 7.5 heavy, you know, that
I think I saw him boat flip an 8-pounder.
there's one that you call the all around. It's like a 7.6, 7.5, 7.6. It's either medium heavy, moderate fast, or heavy moderate fast. It's kind of a flipping stick.
Yeah, I think it's the heavy moderate fast.
And I think that's the one he was using. I don't know if you call it the all. Yeah, I think you call it the all arounder. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, we call it the. I'm thinking here now because you're going to put me on the spot.
I think it's the all arounder.
We have nicknames for this stuff.
You do. You do.
We talked about this a year or two ago. We talked about naming stuff the way we do, and we got a little bit more generic in the way we name stuff. Instead of calling it the Ned rig rod, you know, finesse instead, because it makes more sense to, I think, the average guy that might not want to throw a Ned rig, but he might want to throw something else on that rod. And so when you guys start quizzing me on names on stuff, I'm not going to have them all down.
No. I'm not either. I'm not either. And I pretty much like spent a couple hours on the back office part of every single model in the line, but the names are they're cool, but they're bizarre.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that's the rod he was using.
Those guys that, you know, fish the tournaments, whether it's Derek or Jesse or Pat Schlopper was fishing the elites, and he finished top 10. I think he was in number 10 slot last week.
He was
with the blue rods too. So those guys, the great thing is they're on the water all year round, and so they're perfectly primed to help us test these and mess with them and help us tweak them. So they've been an integral part of it. But then we're lucky enough to have them fish it in tournaments as well, and they did well with them. And timing, you know, obviously is great because we got these coming out tomorrow. And the way I figure is if it's good enough for these guys, it's good enough for anyone.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Alex, real question. So you said about them testing it on the water.
Mm-hmm.
So when you decide to tweak a rod, whichever one in the lineup, in this particular one, it's your Legend. What is the time frame of, hey, we're going to tweak it till it's ready to go out the door?
You mean in a final product or in the next gen in testing?
How does the process?
So it's really, you know, the great thing about the way we operate with being built in the U.S. From start to finish, we take raw carbon. We don't start with a blank. We start with raw carbon and go the whole way up. Is we can have things turn around in really a short period of time. And I won't over exaggerate and say it's a week, but it's not much longer. So there's another project I'm involved with, and we wanted to tweak it. And I mentioned something to the engineers, and that was 10 days ago, and he's shipping it out this week for testing again. So when we want to tweak stuff, we don't have to wait for a boat to show up. We ship it out the back door, and it goes back on the water, and we can get
test it
pretty dialed in, you know, and get it tested. So yeah.
So I think the last time we were talking with those guys, that they were saying, you know, from design to on the water, they can do it, you know, in whatever time frame they want, but they test it for the proper amount of time and tweak it. And I think the Victory rod took like a year and a half.
Right. Well, we've been giving ourselves now, we'd like a 2-year production timeline now.
Yeah.
Because we really put these through the paces on the water. And it doesn't matter if it's Victory or tournament or a saltwater rod or a surf rod. We really want to have as much time on the water to get all those tweaks done correctly.
Sure.
And then have enough time to build plenty of them. Yep. And have them in the warehouse and ship them to you guys, and then be ready for sale when we say they're ready for sale. So it's, you know, we like to give ourselves 2 years to do that.
Yeah.
Well, and that's an interesting point. Like, there's only a few companies that do that. There's, you know, a lot of rod companies do not do any of that. You know, they are manufactured by like an OEM type company that built a fine product, but they design the rod and they design the carbon. And there's one really, really big one that does a lot of brands, and they have a huge spread of options. But it's a little different when you own the brand and you design the brand. You know, it's the same thing in reels. There's only like 2 or 3 companies in reels that have that control.
Right.
You know, where I can say, hey, you know, pro staff guy, take these 3 rods out and destroy them, and then tell me how you destroyed them.
Got it.
Or, you know, take this reel out that is designed to catch smallmouth and take it out offshore and catch 25-pound bluefish or some kind of saltwater demon. And then when the reel is toast, tell me how that happened.
Right.
And then that leads to solving problems. And then that leads, which basically is like, this will never happen in the real world. But if we solve the problem that made that happen, then it will really never happen in the real world. And, so that's the difference between certain companies and other certain companies from both rods and reels. And I'm sure it's the same way with other companies that make whatever they make.
Yeah, you mentioned a little bit ago about how quickly things change now and how much things have changed over the last 10 years. And, we've been building, next year, 75 years for us. We've been building rods for a long time, and we've been known to build good rods for a long time. But over the last 3 or 4 years, it's like we put fuel on the fire and we're taking things to a new level. Ryan, who you guys I've obviously talked with, has been really responsible for that and helping us stay focused on the next thing. And George, you were at ICAST with us last year, and you had the chance to meet those guys and talk with them, and you can tell
they're hardcore bass anglers,
bass guys, and they could talk in languages that are basically foreign to me. I like the bass fish, but when it comes to the in-depth knowledge these guys have when it comes to bass fishing, it puts me to shame. And I learned a lot from them, but
100%.
But they, when we talk about lengths, powers, and actions and tweaking them and getting them right, they don't let things rest. I think the hair jig rod in Victory is such a good example of that, because Ryan was talking to me about what his standard was for that hair jig. And I won't go into what he told me, but he wanted it to be simply the best hair jig rod that's ever been built, period. He kind of took it under his wing and made that a pet project within the series. And they get very finicky. And guys like Derek Hudnall and Jesse Wiggins, and those guys who are on our team, have been part of that too. We were out at the factory last summer, and Derek happened to be out there at the same time for a meeting that we were in. But during that, free time, he pulled one of the engineers aside. He said, "Hey, I've got this new Extreme 7.3 MLXF that we launched last year." And, they're bending it and say, "Hey, if you just did this," and they went the next day to the factory and dialed a new blank out and got it to Derek, and he put it back on the water, make sure it was what his expectations were. And we use, that's a barometer for us. He's one of the great fishermen, and so that has to be a barometer for us. So,
sure.
Well, I think it's important. I mean, again, it kind of goes back to what we just talked about a minute ago. The ability to test, make the changes in your own, you're doing it. You're making the blank. There's not another company that says, "Hey, we have these 10 different types of blanks, and each blank has between 5 and 30 actions and another 5 powers that you can pick from." It's like ordering off a Chinese menu, one on column A, one on column B. And they're great rods. Right. They really are.
We say the same thing. There's nothing.
They're great rods, but when you get into, companies that design and build, that is what happens. And as a buyer who fishes a lot, when you're in a meeting and you're having the designers and, the pros, I mean, Derek Hudnall was in that meeting, and they're coming at you like you're at some kind of a fashion show and you're at the end of the runway and they're coming down modeling this thing. You can tell these guys know what they're talking about. And that's why these product lines are spectacular. They're just nothing short of spectacular.
Couple of things here. Michael McCabe is saying, man, he just bought a couple of the Legend Tournament, the old ones, and they're already discontinued. Well, let me tell you something about that. You're going to love the old ones. The last generation Legend Tournament is a legend. It's a rod that is been around for so long because it's such a great rod. So Michael, you're not going to be sorry that you have those rods. Those things are absolutely freaking fantastic, and that's what got them to this point where they waited so long to. It's the last rod really that was kind of redesigned.
I mean, we've tweaked a lot of different things over the last few years, and we're trying to keep a shorter lifespan now and make sure that we're staying modern on some of these things. But that one had That's been around for a
Oh,
while.
that's
but you're dead on. I mean, he's going to love that
Oh,
rod.
yeah.
That actually-
I think he's going to love you more. He's going to fish it.
Yeah,
He's going to say, "Wow, this is great," and then
get a new
when
one.
he's ready for another rod, he's going to say, "Well, what's so much better about this?" And you're going to find out. So
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, that rod actually did get a couple of like unadvertised changes in the form of the different resins that were used. You know, that was not something that you really would go out and do a big.
yeah, I think it's pretty technical.
Yeah.
And, you talk to Jason.
It just
who's
makes
our
it. It
VP.
just makes them better and better and
It is,
better.
yeah, and really resin. We talk about carbon rods. Resin,
Yeah.
which is the glue that holds the carbon together, is as important,
Or-
if not more important,
right?
than
Exactly.
the carbon. Yeah, and he's-
exactly.
and it's
Only when you start talking about it, I start getting a
yeah,
headache.
it gets a
Yeah.
little bit weedy, but even every one of our SC2 carbon rods this year, they all got a resin change. We didn't really even talk about Premier, Triumph, Workhorse rods for us have been around forever.
Right.
They all actually got blank changes, but we didn't really
Yeah.
talk about because it's resin.
Which is what happened to Legend Tournament a couple times during
Yeah.
its lifespan.
David Schottlemeyer is saying that Caleb Couple was the first angler to get the century belt on 19 bass instead of 20.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, well, if he'd have
19.
caught the 20th, he may have won the tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If he would have caught his limit every day, he may have won the tournament.
it was close.
Not taking anything away from Drew Cook, because Drew
Yeah.
Cook wired it,
Yeah,
and his last fish was 7-2, which
Yeah.
gave him a pretty comfortable cushion.
yeah.
But, if
If he would have had like an 8-pounder.
if the queen had balls, she'd have been the king. I mean, you can go down this path forever. But,
Right.
I mean, and let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about that tournament. I mean, we have a lot of tournament stuff that's going on right now, and the beauty of it is that we're learning and refining techniques that we use. And when you talk about these tournaments, you talk about these techniques, and it just, I think it makes you a better angler. And this last one at Santee was a sight fisherman's dream. These fish were moving up. At one point, I read where Greg Hackney said he had saw over 500 fish on a flat.
Yeah.
Now, of course, bass managed to try their very, very best to screw everybody over by canceling a day.
Yeah.
But, Drew Cook said he sat in his house and, watched boat after boat after boat go into his area and fish that day because no one else canceled, just the Elite Series. Everybody else fished, but
Don't get started on all that. I mean, that's like.
well, I mean, I'm just making underhanded
that's
comments.
like, that's like.
I can promise you that out of 101 anglers that make up the Elite Series field, there's about 99 of them that were pissed.
I guarantee you. Well, we talk about that all the time. About
This is not a
canceling
fishing
tournaments.
trip. This is a career. They're not going fishing. They're going to work.
It's like missing a day on the stock market.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean,
Can't go to the stock market
You know what
today.
you guys say about them canceling that day, but I'm going to tell you that the last two tournaments, for me personally, I've never seen so many locals fishing their water as soon as they would leave. I mean, it's getting bad.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, personally, and I mean, if any of you locals who fish their water are listening, please don't take offense to this, but it's bullshit. I mean, you live there, you can fish there anytime you want. These guys do not own the water, neither do you, but they're there for 4 days showcasing your body of water. And let's face it, everybody loves it when the elites come to their town. I mean, I think for 4 days, we cannot just go fishing. I mean, we don't even have that many waters around here, and I can find like 10 other spots to go fishing when they're on the bay.
Well, I guarantee you one thing. I'd be following them around, and my old button be going,
Absolutely. Follow them with binoculars and watch. I've done it already,
I
man.
guarantee.
Back in the day when they came to the Potomac, I was like, I gotta see this action. But I just think you don't need to, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm up on a high horse or anything here, but I just don't think you need to go fishing, the other 361 days of the year are pretty much available.
Well, there's a perception out there that these pros that are in the elites or whatever, that they're all filthy rich. And that perception is wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because these locals are saying, well, when these rich guys come to the lake, you know what? Some of these guys are literally sleeping in their trucks.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're just trying to make a living.
Yeah.
Live in their
These
dream.
are guys.
It's a
they're
sketchy-
chasing the dream.
It's a sketchy road to talk on, travel on with when you're talking about this, because there's people who have their lake that they don't want the elite people to come to because it does draw attention to their body of water. And
Well, I mean,
that's part of that's
guess
one
what?
thing.
Guess what?
Yeah,
It's happening.
I know. Well,
Okay.
I know, but I'm just saying, there's people who are like, well, I don't want you guys to come here.
Well, those people have laptops and they go to and sit in front of businesses to steal their Wi-Fi and post things on like dark web websites. Okay, it's
Well, Mike, did you see?
That's not true.
Mike, one of
It
those guys
is.
was fishing. Well, it's not fishing, but was where Gerald Swingle was, and he was doing laps around.
Yeah, I
the
saw
area.
that. I
So
saw
he
that.
didn't want him there.
Oh, I know. He didn't want him there. And I'm not saying anything either way. I'm just saying that the other side of the story is I didn't ask you guys to come here. I didn't ask you to bring all this tourism into my lake.
well, it's not your lake.
Because I bought a house on the lake that I spent way over what I should have paid for it. And
Yeah.
I want that peace and serenity of this lake and this pristine fishery to stay the way it is forever. Because let's face it, you put a Bassmaster on a lake, it ain't the same anymore.
But well, especially if the fishing's good.
It's not the same.
Remember
anymore.
Lake Falcon?
There's a hell of a lot of people there,
I'll tell you who liked it at Lake Falcon when they came down to Lake Falcon. The all-time record-setting Century Belt tournament was Lake Falcon. There was 1,500-pound belts, the first Lake Falcon tournament. The most thankful people that happened was the tackle shop in Del Rio and the real estate dealers in Southwest Texas, because numerous people went down there and bought property on that lake and Amistad. Because when they went to Amistad, it was the same thing.
Absolutely.
Hell, Denny Brower freaking bought a house on Amistad
they all went down there and bought houses.
because the fishing was phenomenal.
It was
Okay,
legend.
so
it wasn't even. It's like nothing you ever seen before.
I didn't think we were going to go off on this tangent too hard, but
Well, I mean, I'm just saying that.
saying.
You're saying one side, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying,
don't get it twisted.
Don't twist it up, because I'm just saying the other side of the story is, me and Maggie saved our whole entire life to buy the waterfront property on a pristine lake, and we searched this lake out forever, and we finally got this $1 million property. We put this awesome thing in. We bought this awesome boat. We have this pristine lake. It's been great for 4 or 5 years, and all of a sudden this Bassmasters comes to town, and now all of a sudden they got all these people coming into this creek, which nobody had came into before.
Well, do your research. This was like the 38th Bassmaster event on Santee Cooper.
I know,
So,
and that guy doing laps was probably that guy going, them sons of bitches are back again, and I'm just going to go out there and start running circles. All I'm saying is
that's the Wi-Fi.
that's the other side. That's the other side of that story, is that that's why you got those kind of people. You got those people who don't like that.
Well, they're going to have to get over it. So let's talk about some techniques that happened at this tournament that I think can benefit everyone that watches Tackle Shop Live. What do you think? Tournament talk?
Let's go. A little tournament talk.
So what I found interesting is that there was 3 top 10 guys that relied on a creature bait, the same creature bait, to make the top 10. And it was, when you think creature bait, you think, the top dogs are the Reaction Innovation Sweet Beaver. That's a big creature bait. Strike King, Rage Bug. Well, this is a really popular creature bait, but it's not that level of popularity. At least not in the south, not in places that are other than the southeast. This is the big bite bait, Fighting Frog, the Dean Rojas Fighting Frog, which is a really nice creature bait. Very similar to
I always thought that was a really terrible name for that bait.
The fighting frog?
Yeah. Just thought it was a terrible name for that bait.
Put your dukes up, man.
Well, it just reminds me of like a topwater bait. Done it?
You know what?
It's the worst thing.
These are scented up too, man. They got, I don't know what they call it, bite juice or something. They got the bite juice. But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really say on there.
That bait
Bite juice, bite juice.
George, that bait seems to play everywhere there's a spawning tournament.
Yeah.
Well, and the way they fish it, Alex, is they flip it. So you see that hook? When the money's on the line, that's the hook you use. So this is a flipping hook. Now let me show you something about this hook.
I'm gonna get an education here too.
It's a straight shank. Okay, so when you're talking, tournament pro angler, 99.9% of them are flipping with a straight shanked hook. Now, Drew Cook, who won this tournament, he's a Gamakatsu pro. Spro, Gamakatsu, Big Bite Baits. What they do is that group markets together. So when you get their pro staff, they all, if they're Spro, they're also Gamakatsu, they're also Big Bite, and AFCA, because those companies all pooled their marketing dollars together and they built a team. So, Drew Cook was flipping this bait. Drew Benton was flipping this bait. Who else? Oh, Pat Schlapper, your guy.
It's like a little fighting frog party going on out there.
And they were all flipping it on a flipping straight shank. Drew Benton was using, this is the Gamakatsu. Nick just showed it to you. It's the Aaron Martin's edition flipping punching hook. And it's got the keeper is soldered on there. It's like it's actually cast on tin. So, when you come in on this bad boy, the problem with straight shank hooks, Alex, is they're kind of high maintenance because that bait wants to pull down there. It doesn't have that kink to hold it.
Mm-hmm.
Look how that holds it. The problem is when you set the hook, you need a new bait because that little keeper splits it. You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Which is not a problem, if you're setting the hook on $100,000 prize-winning fish, you can probably afford another bait. And I'm pretty sure Big Bite keeps their pros pretty well stocked up.
I'd imagine the soft plastic is.
They probably give
pretty
them.
deep.
They probably give them like the big bag like this, like the Mega Pro Pack. But yeah, that bait plays. And this bait's on a second rebirth. When this thing first came out, it was a hot flipping bait, and now it's coming back again. And it's just Texas rig it. This is a straight shank hook, but a lot of times I use an EWG style hook. There was a couple pros in this that were using the Gamakatsu, the hook that Mike McClellan designed, which is kind of like a hybrid EWG. So to each his own, name your own poison. And then anywhere from like, I think Pat Schlapper was at a 5/16 tungsten, and Drew Cook was flipping a half ounce into like this much water, I guess for a fast fall. But
I'm trying to get the inside scoop here for which rod Pat was using.
Well,
we know it was a blue rod. But
I think it was that 7.6.
7.6 HMF.
That's what I think.
It could have been. I asked the guy to know. We'll see if he gets back to me before we're done.
Now, Drew said he'd get this thing on the bed, and when they were looking at it, he'd leave a little bit of slack in his rod and tap the butt of the rod, and the bait would not move. Maybe that's why he was using a half ounce, and those claws would just work like that without moving the bait out of place. So he caught all of his fish sight fishing. Congratulations on that, wire to wire.
That was unbelievable.
The other thing that your boy Pat Schlapper did was Big Bite used to make a tube that didn't have these flappers. This is called the crawl tube. See how it kind of looks like a crawl?
Mm-hmm.
But they made one before this that didn't have those crawls on it. And Pat Schlapper was using, so basically if you tore those off of there, you'd have the kind of tube he was using. So those were his two baits. And then Drew Cook used these, and then Drew Benton also used these. And those were some big players down there, and I really liked the way they rigged them. to catch those fish.
Amazing tournament. Amazing tournament.
Yeah. Hackney had a really good tournament.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, he's a flipper, right? You know, he was on that Strike King Game Hog, which is basically their, their brush hog, baby brush hog type bait. You know,
Yeah, it was a tournament,
which is a big player.
Yeah, it was a tournament where, you know, if you just landed on them, or if you were able to get in an area just for a little bit and seen what was happening, you know, and seen those big fish moving up, because they actually that day off probably helped those guys out a little bit, because the last 2 days of that tournament, man, they were just up. There was a lot of fish up, a lot more fish up than normal. But it's just, you know, it's kind of like if you would stumble across the right fish, you know, that was your edge. You know, that was what it was, because everybody was catching them. I mean, they were, you know, those final couple of days, they were catching them.
Well, it's interesting too. You know, these tournaments that they've been having the last 3 have really been involved in the spawn somehow.
Yeah.
Pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn. And, you know, you go there with an idea of what you think's going on, and it can throw you for a loop. You know, some of these fish, from what I've heard, you know, they're cruising around. They're just not ready to bite.
Yeah.
You know, you had to find the right ones that were going to commit to, you know, biting what you were. Well,
that's what I'm saying. That's I think where if you were able to get to where they locked on just a little quicker, and you caught those couple of fish, that would get you in that next day. You know, because the next day is when they really, you know, really got on there.
Well,
you know?
Or if you did what Brandon Polinick did, he didn't wait for the next day.
Yeah.
He picked up a crankbait, a Rapala OG Slim, and cranked a little bit deeper pre-spawn fish.
Yeah.
And had a hell of a bag, like 28, 29 pounds. And pretty much knew that the next day he could probably do the same thing. Well, they canceled the next day. So then after that, his fish moved up shallow, and he went up and sight fished them. But
yeah,
he cranked them. So
amazing how that
only guy in the top 10 that focused on some pre-spawn fish with a crankbait.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
And again, the OG Slim.
Yeah, OG Slim is amazing. It's
happening.
Amazing how that bait just is always in the picture.
It's good in cooler water temperatures. It's good pre-spawn. It's good now. You know, that's the deal with those flat sides. But, you know, I think to his credit, I mean, he recognized that his big fish were staging. Mm-hmm. They weren't up yet. And the first day of the tournament was going to be when the first day of the tournament was going to be. So
did they actually give a belt out for the 100 pounds?
Yeah.
Did they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a big old Stone Cold Steve Austin belt too, buddy.
Yeah. They had to give out a bunch at this one.
They gave out 5 or 6 of them.
Broke the bank for bass, baby.
Yeah. Well, 15 at Falcon the first time they ever created the 100th century belt. 15 at Falcon. I'm pretty sure Ike has at least one. If I'm not mistaken, Ike got a century belt at the Falcon tournament. You know, Ike being one of our local heroes. Yeah. And, I mean, damn, 100 pounds in 4 days? That's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
They've only given out like 33 of them.
Well, and 20 fish.
Yeah, or 19 in the case of Caleb Kupal.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Now, the other thing I found interesting from this tournament.
What was the lunker? Do they have a 10-pounder? Somebody have a 10-pounder?
9.
So that's a ton.
There was a 9.4.
Ton of 7 and 8.
Luke Palmer had a 9-something. There was another high 9.
Yeah.
The other thing I found interesting from these tournaments, because we've been talking a lot about electronics on Tackle Shop Live, is not a Humminbird, not a Garmin, not a Lowrance, but it was pretty much universally located. These guys were standing on their graphs to sight fish. So you have $13,000 to $15,000 worth of graphs on the front deck of your boat, and you use them for an elevation advantage. They were standing 1 foot on the trolling motor mount with the majority of their weight, and then another foot on top of a 12-inch graph, stabilizing. And so there's a really
standing on. I'm thinking they're standing close to them and watching.
Yeah, no, like if this is the graph, 1 foot on the trolling motor mount, and then the other foot on the edge of the graph.
I saw that.
All of
I
them.
didn't see that.
All
They're
of
all
them.
standing on.
I didn't notice that.
They were
Matter
all
of fact,
standing
there's a
on.
really good picture on Bassmaster of Brandon Polnick poling his boat, because when they're stalking these bedding fish, a lot of times they pole. Corey Johnson was poling, or Chris Johnson, I don't know, one of the Johnsons. But Brandon's like in full, like, you know, you've been out when people are poling a boat,
Yeah,
like
it's like a bonefish.
they get on it.
That's
So
my
he's
jam right
like
there.
he's like on this thing, like, and one foot's on the trolling motor and the other foot's on a big hummingbird, and he's just
That's what I.
We don't recommend that.
That's where I get giddy for bass fishing.
Oh yeah.
Is sight fishing them, because you guys know I'm a trout guy.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm a fly guy. I like to do the bonefish thing on the flats and creep around and get one shot that's just kind of
In a foot of water.
in a foot of water.
Yeah.
So that
And get
yeah.
one shot.
clear water bass fishing is, man, I love that.
Oh yeah.
See me at the bait and watch them come flying up when you jack them. Oh yeah.
So cool. So cool.
Yeah.
Rob Osmond is saying that he doesn't like the pros coming down to the Delaware and screwing up his view of the garbage barge. Because when it comes down the river, he wants to see. Hey, Oz, you're a piece of work.
Yeah,
man.
you're out there, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was an amazing tournament. It was really neat to watch. I mean, so many of those big fish are coming in, man, landing those things. It was amazing, and they were catching them in clear enough water. You could they could see them swimming and fighting. You knew when they were fighting around, that was big ass fish. Those guys were calm as hell landing them though. They were just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna take them back here in the back. And,
Well, we talk about
That's
those
what they
local
do.
guys not loving that, but
Yeah.
I guarantee you, I bookmarked some lakes
oh yeah,
after watching the last couple tournaments.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm
Oh,
going
sure.
back. I'm taking some vacation days, and I know where I'm at.
it's staggering the number of people that go to.
Well,
these
it
bodies of
depends.
water.
It depends on where you're talking about. Because, for example, Florida, last week the MLF Pro Tour, which is the big boys on the MLF, they were in the Harris Chain.
Yeah,
And I mean, you want to talk about a lake that, if you're a property owner and you're raising hell about tournaments coming in, I'm pretty sure those lakes exist for tournaments.
yeah.
Because the MLF guys were there, the elite guys were there. I mean, it's
the kayak.
it's
They
like
fished it.
yeah, it's like when you stop at the McDonald's for a coffee and you say to the lady behind the counter, "Is there a tournament today?" And they look at you and say, "It's Saturday, isn't it?" I mean, it is. So this whole thing is silly.
Alex,
silly.
Alex Davis is chiming in here. Where's the bourbon? Well,
Yo, Alex, what's up, buddy?
Alex Shmay brought us some Miller Lights. Unlike some people we know come in empty-handed.
I know better.
Whoa. Shots fired, Alex. Shots fired. Yeah, but his partner in crime
His partner in crime hooked us up.
his partner in crime did bring a pretty stellar bottle
Yeah.
of fine whiskey.
I'm just saying you were at the airport. Duty free.
Well, that doesn't work either. Duty free. Duty free is the biggest scam in flying.
We had a good time with Alex last weekend. That was fun.
Yeah, he was great.
That was a good time.
Can't wait to get him back here to the shop
Yeah.
again for another event.
Yeah, that guy's funny as hell.
Yeah.
5 stars. That's right, Alex. Take that down there to your hometown and break that in. 5-star. Miller Lite, the 5-star beer.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, George, I'm looking at that crankbait you have sitting in front of you.
Yeah.
Can you talk about it a little bit?
Well, that's the Rapala OG Slim, and what makes it so appealing to all these pros, because this thing's been winning a lot of tournaments. It's flat side. Okay. It's flat side. It's balsa, which makes it deflect real good and makes it very buoyant. And then the flat side makes it, not a big wide wobbler, but a little closer. And then it's got, of course, the circuit board lip, and
It's got giant hooks on it.
it does have big hooks on it. That's to kind of help weight it.
Yeah, that's and
That helps because these balsa baits need extra weight in them. This is a 1/2 ounce bait. And in the course, these are VMC quality hooks on here because Rapala owns VMC. But this bait has been winning a lot of money. And obviously, this is the time of the year for it, right? Pre-spawn, cold water. This is the OG6. There's also the OG4 Tiny, which we've talked about numerous times. But this, I brought this up here because Brandon Polinick in the top 10 was the only guy, in my estimation, who focused on pre-spawn fish for one day to get him to the rest of the days, and to the tune of about 28 or 9 pounds.
I'd love that bite.
So
That's a great bite right there.
yeah.
Me and George went fishing on Sunday.
Oh, we have an update on the year of Mike
Yeah.
cranking.
Yep. It was, we went fishing on Sunday and we didn't cancel. It's 25 plus mile an hour.
No, there was no cancellations.
No cancellations. We went.
But we didn't even talk about canceling.
No, we didn't even talk about it. We just went.
We also had Joey with us, Joey Evering.
Joey Evering went with us, and he was in
Shorts and flip-flops.
And flip-flops.
You know,
But anyway,
we made him put some bibs on.
Keeping true to what I'm going to do for this year, the year of the crankbait, we were chucking the what was that bait called? The
Chick magnet.
Chick magnet from Strike King. And one of our good customers, told me about down the river a little bit. They were catching them on the crankbait. So, I was kind of jacked up over that whole thing, and I started throwing that thing around. And man, we caught some fish, caught some nice fish.
We did.
And it was cranking, but they wanted that real tight wobble, colder water, 40, it was cold front coming through, and they wanted that tight wobble.
Yeah, because we tried other crankbaits and couldn't get bit.
Interesting though about that day though, George.
We had 900 crankbaits on the boat, and there was 2 that worked.
Yeah, and the funny thing about that is the way that I figured out the retrieve of that bait was actually by accident. We were throwing it and retrieving it just at a steady pace, nice slow steady pace. So I had it on a 7-to-1 gear ratio, moderate, 7 foot, medium heavy, moderate, St Croix Avid cranking rod. One of the ones that me and George love from years back. You know, and just won't get rid of it because we just love that action. And
I was gonna ask, if that turns into a loaded question real fast, because I know you guys fish with a lot of different stuff.
Oh yeah,
We do.
we do. We fish with a lot of different crankbait rods, but
We fish a lot of brands. We like to
honestly,
fish what we sell.
yeah. But honestly, we throw that rod, and we throw the Legend Tournament S class.
We forgot our victory that you bought us. That would have been the inaugural.
Yeah,
Imagine that.
yeah.
That would have been we forgot it. It was the day after our sale.
We were brain
And,
dead.
Alex,
You're not talking the deep dive.
No.
No.
The
MHMF.
70
Yeah.
HMF, right?
Yeah. So we're going to rectify that this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were going along, and we caught 1 or 2 fish, but it was like, distance between catching one. So I was casting along, and I threw out, and the plug fouled, and I was reeling it. And it was like spinning across the surface, and I'm like, dang, what I'm going like this, and I got it to correct itself, and I'm like, I'm gonna make another cast quick. So I just started ripping that thing in, and boom! I mean, stopped it dead, and I set the hook, and it was a nice chunk, and I'm like, oh, geez, I wonder if they want it fast. So the rest of the day, I started reeling that thing pretty quick, and about every 15 casts, they would just, and they wanted it fast, and I don't know if that was a triggering thing or what, but
water temperature was 52, 53.
yeah.
And the fish were pretty aggressive.
But if I wouldn't have failed that plug and reeled that thing in fast, and not have a fish hit it, how things trigger you off and kind of give you that hint and that subtle hint there, and I just ran with it, and the next thing you know, I catch another one, and I catch another one, and I catch another one.
I think I've learned more screwing things up like that than I have.
I know. Well, that's what I always say, man. I always, I never say that I'm that smart that I figured it out,
But Mike, good for you for picking up when I hit and running with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I just ran with it the rest of the day, and we caught, we ended up catching, some good fish. Plus, it was nice to throw crankbait because the winds were blowing 25 plus all day. And then it wasn't bad for me, but because George had to run the boat, he was running the trolling.
All right, I got something that's I laugh at the wind.
He was running the trolling motor.
How's that
Spot lock.
Recessed trolling motor pedal there.
Well, Mike doesn't run one on his jet boat.
I'll tell you what, though.
I like the recessed pedal, but Mike doesn't. So
Yeah.
it's his boat. So his pedal is, high and dry.
Well, I always use the excuse that, my thing with that was when I guided, I always had somebody up front with me, and I could take that pedal and move it around to where I could get out of the way of somebody. Well, now that I'm not doing that, now I can probably, because honestly, it was brutal, to stand on that thing the whole time.
Not for you, it wasn't.
Yeah. I just felt so bad for you, George.
I wasn't minding it.
Like, I was like, oh, wait a second, there's another one. Can you get the net?
Listen, you'll never hear me complain.
Spot lock.
Spot lock is the greatest invention ever.
Yeah.
Remember all those years without it? Huh? Not anymore. Yeah.
Stone Cold. No, he's not going to do that, Bill. Bill wants you to smash your beer on your head like Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Well, Bill's a little out there. This is a fishing show.
It's a family show, Bill.
Yeah. So listen, I hate to jump around like we are, but getting back on these tournaments here, there was a few other techniques that have been popping here lately that are some of which are very far off the beaten path. Everybody fishes a Senko.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody fishes a General, but a ton of guys are fishing the Zoom fluke stick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I'm gonna tell you right now, I've never fished a fluke stick.
I never did either.
Which is funny because I love the fluke. So basically, you have a Senko style bait with a fluke tail, and Brandon Cobb is big on this, and so is the G-Man Gerald Swindell, as well as a few others. And Brandon Cobb had a really nice finish in this event. I want to say he finished in 6th place. And his two baits of choice were the fluke stick on a wacky and the Ultra Vibe Speed Crawl flipping. But we've been hearing a ton about this bait, Alex.
I was just going to ask if they still wacky rig that, because it would make sense.
They do. A lot of them Nico rig it. So for your knowledge, since you're a fly fisherman,
I do bass fish.
Yeah, he does bass
I do
fish.
bass fishing.
allegedly.
Allegedly.
So Nico rigging is when you hook the bait like this through an O-ring. So the hook is in line with the bait. Okay? And then you'll put a nail weight in here.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting about Nico rigging is that your bait's on the bottom, your weight is hitting, but your pull point's up high here. So when you just tighten that up, you stand that bait up. Imagine this in the water. This is going to stand up. So you're changing that pull point from down here and basically pulling the worm like this to pulling it and standing it up. Pulling it and standing it up. So that's the big thing with Nico. Wacky, they'll take this same hook. And a lot of anglers have gone to what they commonly call a Nico hook, which is basically a straight shank, and usually with a pair of wire weed guards on them. Again, this is the Gamakatsu, but a lot of them use mono weed guards like the Mustad Titan X and the VMC weedless wacky, which are probably your two most popular ones.
Mm-hmm.
And they usually use an O-ring so they can get multiple fish out of a bait, but the wacky's this way. Okay, and the wackies generally fish weightless. Although you may put a jig head on here if it's windy, but you want this bait to be able to undulate like this as it sinks and rock back. It'll rock. If you put a little jig head on there, that jig head as it falls will rock, and that bait will kind of undulate like that. So pre-spawn to spawn, wacky and Nico is very, very deadly. And that's why when you read these reports and follow these tournaments, and we try to share that stuff with our listeners because it makes us all better fishermen.
I need to do that more, Nico.
That's money. That's money. We're going to do a tackle shop live on the water Nico day.
I have the benefit of working with these bass heads, right?
Right.
The guys we talked about earlier. And we were out at the factory last spring. I said, hey, I want to go skip Senkos on docks because, around here,
Yeah.
Susquehanna River doesn't have very many docks.
We don't have docks.
So I grew up in this area, and most of the bass fishing is smallmouth. And I've been lucky enough, you can generally go out there with some pretty basic stuff, a tube and a Ned rig, and on a lot of days clean up pretty good. Of course, there's some times when you need to get a little bit more technical, but when I'm in areas where there is a need for that technical stuff and these guys are with me, I say, hey, let's go show me what you know about this. And I get to pick a little bit up here and there. So,
Well, I mean,
and you know what? So last
the
year when
best.
we did
you guys
Victory,
built rods for that.
we did. So last year when we came out with Victory, and some of you guys out there might see this from time to time in these tournaments where there's a rod with a white label on it. You know, he's a St. Croix guy, but there's nothing but a white label on it. That is an R&D. I'll let you in on a little secret there. You're looking at an R&D prototype right there.
Exactly.
So last year in the St. John's, Derek was skipping Senkos with the new Victory, and
Yeah, nobody knew what it was.
7.3 medium XF.
exactly, and that
Mhm.
when we were out the factory last summer, I said, hey, let's go skip some docks. We got to play with that rod a little bit more, and that is a dream for doing that. It's just for a guy that I skip spinners under branches for trout,
Yeah.
so I got the general
Yeah.
motion down. But for someone that doesn't get to do it on docks and
Yeah.
on a bass boat, it does the work for you.
No
Well,
doubt.
as I recall, the story came up on a particularly late night session, which involved bourbon and cigars.
Yeah, you got the full treatment that night, didn't you?
And the gentleman who will go nameless on this particular session of Tackle Shop Live kind of got his shorts in a bunch when you stood on the back deck of his boat and whooped his ass for about 2 hours straight.
Yeah.
Because when you brought it up, he was like, whoa.
I had to put it in there that I outfished him.
I was just trying to make sure you caught. See, as soon as somebody takes you fishing and they say, I was just trying to make sure that I put you on fish.
Yeah.
No, that means that you got your ass kicked.
Yeah.
And my man would have definitely spoke differently had he outfished. Now, we're not mentioning any names, so, don't jump on here and put your name on here because then everybody knows who you are. But we'll get together again this year at ICAST, and you can yell at me or something.
Hopefully, I'll have a chance to do it again, and we can have another story about how I kick his butt again.
But skipping a dock with a weightless wacky, deadly. Now imagine a spawning bass and that wacky is just falling down into that bed. I mean, especially if they're kind of new to that moving up, that's how you get bit. And that's why you see these guys. And these guys, I mean, have taken wacky to the next level. You know what I'm saying? So that's how Nico came to be. Now, back when me and Mike were kids, the old men down at the fish camps in Florida said, take a straight worm, hook it in the middle, and put a finishing nail in the head of the worm. Now, little did we know, we were Nico rigging.
Yeah, we didn't know anything about
You know,
it back then.
In the late 70s and the early 80s. It's just
one of those guys named Nico.
Yeah, well,
Might have been.
these guys just knew
Who
how to
knows?
catch fish. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The technique is deadly. So we'll continue to talk about Nico and I love how these tournaments force us to get back on this stuff because it really brings it up.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was like different techniques from a long time ago. The slider head was the shaky head of the modern day. Slider, Charlie Brewer.
Yeah, I mean Charlie Brewer's slider head. Charlie Brewer invented the shaky head, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I mean, he was well ahead of the curve on that. You know.
Well, you guys have been doing this a long time, so you've seen all of the recycling.
Oh
over
yeah.
the years.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And, a lot of this stuff that's I don't know, man. We had a show the other couple months ago, and we were talking about all these freaking rigs. I mean, they got a rig for everything. I just saw something called the baby mama rig or something.
Don't even go there.
It's like, what the hell?
Hey, Mike, sniff that air. What do you smell?
Yeah,
So here's something that
there it is, right there.
happened down on the Harris Chain Elite. Now, on the Santee Elite, John Cox, who had about 2 minutes of pre-fishing time, of course he made the top 10. He shows up and he is sight fishing. One of his favorite sight fishing baits is a weightless Texas rigged power bait jerk shad. We tend to call them super flukes because they kind of invented it.
Yeah.
But basically, it's a jerk shad, right? So where a lot of guys are gonna Nico and wacky rig a Senko or a stickworm, or flip a creature bait. One of John's main things is a Texas rigged weightless power jerk shad, which is basically the Berkeley copy of a
Super flip.
Super fluke. But down in the Harris chain, he had a 10-pounder that he was working on, and he went into the Black Magic Vault, and he wacky rigged a fluke.
Crazy.
Okay?
This is new to me.
Yeah, this is new to me.
These other things, I at least have done these other things.
Yeah,
At least once.
this
is new.
This is new to everybody.
Okay.
And as he was showing the rig, he was laughing as he does and saying, I'm really not sure why I'm showing you this. And, out of the 27 hours and 52 minutes alive that I watched on that event, that was the best 2 minutes of it.
Did he catch a fish with it?
He did, but not that 10-pounder.
So explain this to me, because when I think wacky rigging, I think of that action that you get from the bait falling on either side. But with this being a stiffer bait,
it's stiffer. Yeah, it's more of a gliding action, I would imagine. I've never thrown it. Taku Ito in that tournament was wacky rigging a Nori's giant bluegill plastic bait about this big around and wacky rigging it with a little hook. We carry a bait from a company called G-Crack.
Yeah.
It's called the Bellows Gill. It's like basically Texas rigging a ribeye steak. And he was wacky. So, I mean, you can basically wacky rig anything, but to get proficient with it, obviously you need to experiment with it. But, we don't. We wacky rig Senkos. We wacky rig fluke sticks. We wacky rig trick worms. We those kind of things.
And George,
There's nothing off limits anymore of wacky rigging.
But that's what's so cool about watching these tournaments, because
I think, Nick, I think I would pay attention to this. You might want a mental
note.
mental snapshot.
Yeah.
Nick, you might want to take a picture of this in your head. Use your inner voice. I mean, I'm not saying that that's going to be the deal, but that might be the deal. I don't know if anybody else is all jacked up. I mean,
when you're sight fishing on a bed, all you're trying to do is get them to react on it. I mean, you'll do anything to try it. I remember fishing ponds back in the day when I was a kid, because that's where I learned to sight fish. Because ponds, you can sight fish all day long on them things, and it was amazing. You hear people talk about magic spot on the bed, and a lot of times it was just going through your box and just trying to get something. You threw everything just to try to get something they would key on. And one day it would be, a Senko. Another day it would be a floating worm. Another day it would be a crawl. And then we had this thing called a super dew. And it turned out to be a fantastic bed bait. The bigger side, they made a little 4-inch, and then they made a bigger one. And
5-inch.
And a 5-inch. And I fished that thing in the ponds, and all the ponds around. And that was my number one bed bait.
Probably would still be a good bed. Well, tubes on a bed are very good.
This was it was like tube. It was thin, had a little.
Just ask.
Super dew. Anybody know about that?
Just ask your guy, not Caleb, but who's the other guy you had in that tournament? Pat Schlapper. Just ask him how a tube works on a bed and fish, because that's what he did. His jig on the new blue rod and his tube on a victory rod.
Charlie Small was in today, and he told me about a bait. Charlie, if you're watching this, I know you are, put that on the screen for me. I forget the name of it. Some kind of crazy bait. He's been tearing them up on this thing. And
he's definitely not going to put it on the screen then.
No, you can't get it.
Oh.
It's like long lost.
Oh, whoa.
It's a long lost bait. It's a long lost bait.
Is this how this show's going? Because I got news for you, people.
We're all over the place today.
I always have long lost baits.
We're all over the place. Don't be scratching those rods now.
Sorry about knocking all your rods
Yeah,
over
don't be
there, Alex.
scratching those, George. Don't be scratching those rods all over.
Here we have. Now, y'all might want to get real close to your monitors here.
What is this?
Get them up in your face there, whatever your device is. Mike Barr, if you're on the television set tonight on the interwebs, this is for you, buddy. This is one of the original, like, private label crankbaits. This is called the Basso.
Basso.
Anybody out there in Tackle Shop Live land remember the Basso?
223D JWF. What is this?
Look at this. Look at this.
Where'd you get this stuff?
Never mind. Need to know basis, bro. This is the Basso
That is different.
C404, baby. JWF.
That's a little goofy looking.
It's real goofy looking. It's like a big spook that looks like it would crash into buildings. So the Basso used to be a locally made. There's Mike. You see your Bassos, Mike?
Basso.
Mike Barr presented me with a little Basso gift pack.
Oh, is that from Mike Barr?
Yeah, he said I was the only person that ever heard of a Basso other than him.
Oh.
And
Wow.
maybe Robert Brett's. That ain't no chugger there, Robert. That looks like a walking. I don't know. Maybe it chugs. I
gotta
never
see
threw
that
it.
in action.
What in the holy hell is this thing? 404 JWF, whoever that is.
Well, there you go.
But you guys were talking about.
I didn't know we were going down this path, but since it was brought up,
Wow, we are all over the place tonight. We're just binging and banging and bonging.
But you guys were showing that fluke there on that rig,
on a wacky.
on that wacky rig. That's what's so cool about watching these tournaments, because these guys live on the water.
Yeah.
And if your mind doesn't tell you all these things, these guys can show you what they're doing,
Yeah.
because they're trying things you can never have time to do.
Well, we always say that time on the water is everything. And the more time you spend on the water, the more you are in tune with the fish and what they're doing. You know, that's why, back-to-back tournaments are grueling, physically, but they're great mentally, because you're in touch with fish. You're in touch with what's going on. So if you can read them quicker. And I've always said that, back when we fished a lot, like too much, like getting in trouble kind of too much stuff, you just, when you got on that bite, you could follow that bite. You could go down to the Potomac for the weekend and get on it real quick. You could go up to Raystown Lake and get on it real quick. You could go down to Virginia and know the conditions and instantaneously get on that bite a little quicker, because you were just doing it all the time, every weekend, every couple, 3 days a week. You were just fishing all the time. So the time on the water is probably the most important part of fishing out there, information, because it allows you to digest your information quicker and use it better. I just remember all those days as, when we were fishing a lot. I just remember how we could break down a body of water really quick, because you just knew what was going on,
Well, it's huge.
It's massive.
Mm.
Yeah. So Robert Burt's heard of the Bassos.
Yeah, the chugger.
All right. Well.
So what else you got? Anything else?
Well, I just want to everybody who just is stopping in. I know there's a lot of people coming in and out, and you jump in these conversations. I just want to introduce Alex Shmay one more time from St Croix. Appreciate you coming in tonight.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And the reason he's here is because we're launching the Legend Tournament, the brand new Legend Tournament redesigned rod. It's getting launched tomorrow, March the 25th, here at the shop. We're going to turn everything on our website tomorrow. We're going to have everything in here tomorrow going, and we are going to get this whole thing rolling. And at 3 o'clock, we're going to go from 3 to 6. We're going to have a pizza party, maybe a few adult beverages going around. Everybody's welcome to stop in the shop here, get their hands on the rods, check them out. We're going to have a big old throwdown. We got free hat for every rod sold, right?
Yep.
And so it's going to be a really good time in here. And it's our launch of the rod and St. Croix launch of the rod at the Red Crest. So we're going to do it here at the shop from 3 to 6. It may run over. We're not going to kick anybody out at 6 o'clock. We'll be here as long as it takes. So make sure you guys stop in for that. If you can't make it, get on our website because we're going to launch that whole thing on the website, and you guys will be able to see the rods and see what they're all about and read about the rods online. That's going to happen tonight, I think at midnight. If we're allowed to do. Are we allowed to do that at midnight? Technically, yeah. Technically, we're allowed.
Technically, they go on sale on the 25th.
Yeah, technically, it's the 25th. It starts at midnight. So at midnight, if you're hanging around, you can jump on there and
We
you
want
can.
some left to sell in the shop though tomorrow. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We got lots of them.
Hey,
we got a big bundle in back
before I
there.
let George change the subject with his megabass stuff here, I've been saying the word tournament quite a bit lately, as you can imagine.
Yes.
It's like a subject of importance for St. Croix. I want the three of you to say that word because I know there's guys from the factory on this listening to this right now.
Okay.
Everyone's from Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah.
Or the Midwest.
What do they say?
I don't know.
Tournament.
Tournament?
Yeah. Tournament.
They get,
It's
get so much flack.
It's
Tournament.
They
It's
say,
tournament.
They say it sounds like I'm from Boston, Nick.
I say tournament.
Tournament.
Yeah. So I'm not this outlier.
I know. No. Them boys up there, man. Them boys, they got a lot of time to think about things.
Yeah, they
You
do.
betcha.
And they things like pronunciation of the word tournament is like a big thing for them.
I got it on the call today. Boston.
But right. Boston, that's not even close, man.
They said tournament. Sounds like you're saying
Yeah.
like you're from Boston.
No.
All right, I'm glad I'm not some.
No.
I'm not an outlier.
What do they say up there all the time? Yeah.
Derby.
You betcha.
Yeah. Derby. They're going to have fish the Derby.
You hear that all the time, the Derby.
Yeah, that's their tournaments. They call derbies up there. Yeah. Well,
Look what I got.
I don't know.
Now, for all my mega bass peeps out in the world, old Uncle George has been looking out for you. I got the Fine Art series up in here. Fine Art. The Mega Bass Fine Art series. Oh, my God. Would you look at this thing? I mean, we got.
Fine Art Gill.
Yeah, get that one out of the pack for me there.
Fine Art Gill. We got
Fine Art Gill.
Fine Art Wagasaki.
Fine Art Ghost Wagasaki. Fine Art. What's that one? Fine Art. Some kind of IU.
Oh, wait, I got it. It's a Fine Art Kiss You IU.
Yeah, look at that sexy beast.
So everybody's been asking about it. Everybody was wondering about it. We were wondering about when it was going to come. We thought it was going to come last week, but it didn't. But now it's in the house. The Fine Art series is here.
Aha!
You have to call the shop to get them
Well, you can stop in too.
or stop in.
Yeah, we're not going to have time to put these up on the website.
Yeah, they just never last that long, so we don't waste the time to do that. And you can see behind George, there's a lot
Look at
of
that
them.
bluegill.
Oh, that's nice.
He's got a lot of them that he got a hold of this time. So there's going to be a nice,
Huh? Pretty sexy, huh?
it's called the Fine Art Finish. So everybody that knew about them before, or knew about them coming, they're here. You guys can call us. You guys can stop in. You guys can get them. We do have a nice selection of them. You got a lot more than normal.
I got a lot.
Yeah, he got a lot of them. So I'm not going to run out in five.
We're not going to run out
in 2 hours. It's going to be. It's going to
It'll
go
be
for
a couple days.
Bill McDermott, not hot steel. This is beyond hot steel.
It's got a nice pearl under.
Yeah, it does. It
nice
does.
Shimmer.
It's
on it.
really beautiful stuff.
It's pretty.
So it's in the house. That's
Pretty as a
that's some new
prize
tackle.
winning hog.
Trout fisherman. Yes, I'm talking trout fishing.
What?
Yes, I'm talking.
What is
trout
wrong
fishing.
with you? Time for me to leave.
No. You can't be a hater.
I'm not a
Cannot
hater.
be a hater.
It's Tackle Shop Live Bass Edition.
No, it's Tackle Shop Live. Tackle Shop, and one of the things we do in here, Alex, we sell trout stuff.
Tackle.
And we sell a lot of trout stuff, and we have a lot of trout stuff. So Anybody getting ready to do some trout fishing, we have you covered with all the latest and the greatest goodies. Panther Martin spinners and the #2 Panther Martin Gold Deluxe, which nobody has. We have them, boxes of them, thousands of them in the back. We got them here for you. We got all the hot colors of the rooster tails. We got all the power baits that everybody runs out of right away. We always have a ton of it left over. Chunky cheese, garlic, chunky cheese, salmon eggs,
salmon pink.
We got it all, baby. Yeah. We got it all. So you can stop in here and get all your stuff, or you can call us if you're looking for something that you can't find anywhere. We have you covered. Rods and reel combos, ultralight rods, ultralight reels. We're loaded to the gill with it. Hip boots, chest waders, small terminal tackle. Last year, hooks were a big, giant problem. We have boatloads of them, Nick. You saw the shelves.
Yeah, you'll let me show some ultralights tomorrow night, right?
Absolutely.
I'm not going to be
nailed. Oh, absolutely. You're not nailed down a tournament all night long.
Right.
No.
Right,
You're
cool.
There's definitely going to be trout guys in here tomorrow because the youth mentor day is on Saturday.
It is.
So
I'll have my.
I always run out and look and drive along the street till I find a kid, and I grab him and I say, "Go get your mom and tell her to give me your social security number because we're going to get a license. We're going fishing."
Mike, it's interesting. You just asked me about. You guys have a lot.
Yeah.
And every time I come in here, I get the privilege to walk through the back.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you what,
loaded.
You guys are loaded.
It's
loaded.
You guys have more tackle in here, and I've seen a few stores, believe it or not.
Yeah, I know you have.
Covering
you cover what, Maine to
well, now it's Virginia to Maine and Canada.
Yeah, right.
Well, here's something really interesting. So when you guys were having cabin fever, I'm doing live inside the store, and people are like, "Well, Nick, the shelves look full all the time." People don't realize you have people stocking the shelves the whole time.
Oh yeah,
they're always full
all day.
You guys have more tackle than a lot of stores 4-5 times because you just the way you have merchandising. It's deep on the peg and it's to the ceiling. I mean, it's for those of you who are just digital, haven't had the chance to stop in here. It is.
If you're within 3 hours, it's worth it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've been in a few shops. There's not much like this on the entire East Coast, really.
Yeah, I know.
If you're a bass head, you got to make a trip at some point.
Yeah, we appreciate that comment because we work really hard at it. We love it. We're junkies. George, one reason we started a tackle shop because George had a major tackle problem.
It was probably all his tackle.
It was horrible.
Speak for yourself.
It was horrible. Me and him.
Speak for yourself.
I remember when we were growing up, man. We worked like a whole week, and we get our check at the end of the week. It would be like $120, and we would sit there with the catalogs and just going through it and writing. We just spend every penny of it buying tackle. Every penny. It was great.
So back then, what was your first lure that you remember, like you had to have throw all the time, or technique?
Oh man, it was the culprit 6-inch culprit worms. That was like the buying frenzy. That you had to go buy, and it was the moccasin color. Remember that, George?
Mm-hmm.
We'd always buy we make sure we always bought a couple packs of that to have in our thing. And we knocked the crap out of largemouth on that thing everywhere we went.
And the bomber.
Yeah.
6A crankbait.
Yeah, we always get those.
Even though we have a jihad going against Pradco right now, we still love their product line.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, back then we always try. It's kind of like
it's not a personal.
You look through back in those days. You look through the catalog, and you saw this really cool looking stuff that you never tried before. So you always buy a couple. Well, George decided to buy this thing called a bango lure. And it just came out, and he was like, "Oh, this will be a good little ripping bait."
That's not the banjo minnow.
No, it was
Bagley's.
Made by Bagley's. It was called the bango lure. It was the first year it came out. So
Balsa.
So he orders one of these bango lures. It had a little prop on the back, and you'd rip it, and it would kind of make this nice ripping sound. It was like a rip and stop kind of bait. And so a couple days, maybe a couple weeks go by, and here comes this big box. It was always this box like this because me and George would order together. It'd be this giant box comes in, and we were so excited. He starts unboxing this thing, and he starts pulling these boxes out, 6 packs of these bango lures. I'm like, "What'd you do, brother?" He's like, "I don't know, man." He's like, "There was a 6-pack. There's a 6-pack. There's a 6-pack." How it was like? It's like
a lot.
It's like 24 of these things.
We dropped the hammer on Johnny.
So we look at the bill, and they only charge us for one. So, we're Christian people, so we call them up and we say, "Listen, you sent us 24 of these baits." And they were like, oh man, sorry, thanks for calling. But it's cost us more to ship it back. Just keep them. So I mean, we still got these things in boxes. We don't even know what the heck. We never caught a fish on one.
Well, we caught a few fish on them.
Did we?
Yeah, down in Florida.
Oh, down in Florida, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah. But I don't know. We just never. So that
Wasn't our jam.
That's how we started in the tackle business. We were total junkies. You know,
Well,
every nickel on tackle.
And this we're in a pretty big area as far as like diversity of fishing, and there really wasn't any source.
There wasn't.
There was
Nothing.
There was really cool like little shops, and we were one of them. We were a little speck on a wall somewhere, but we had a vision of what we wanted to become, and this area just didn't have it. Back in the 90s and the 2000s, it just didn't have it.
We drove down
There was
no
Bass Pro in Harrisburg. There was no Cabela's in Hamburg.
We drove to
no, there was nothing. They
Bel Air.
They didn't have retail stores.
Right.
We would drive to Bel Air, Maryland, to the fishing shop, and we would drive to out Elverson to I forget the name of that tackle shop out there. It was a nice.
It was a nice shop.
Nice shop out there, and that's what you had to drive. And it was an hour and a half to Bel Air, and it was an hour and 15 minutes to Elverson to get to some of this stuff, and we make those runs, just like these guys are, we're humbled every weekend because we have guys traveling 2.5 to 3 hours to come here on Saturdays, to come to the shop. So we're humbled every weekend when we see those guys and make sure they feel really welcome, and they know that we thank them a lot for that.
Heck, you guys had a guy on Saturday, you had a guy from Georgia coming up here for a rod and reel combo. It's like, holy crap.
Well, I was telling Mike before the show, I was in Florida 2 years ago, and a guy saw my St Croix hat. We started talking fishing, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I get my stuff from Susquehanna, we're in Florida." And like you're saying, when any event I'm here for, talking to people from all over.
It's cool. It's really, for us, it's very cool. It's very humbling, and we love it. We love the fact that we are able to do that, and we just chip away our little corner, and we're like turtles in a shell, like George likes to say. We just do our thing, and we're passionate about the sport, and we hang out with passionate people, that are passionate about it. So that's a pretty good thing. One of the other things is that I want to tell everybody about is make sure you check out our social media. This goes a long way with everybody. Pass it along to your friends, share it. We have Instagram, we have YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and all those medias. And then we also have a emailer that we do, Nick, that you can sign up for on our website. Go on our website. And speaking of websites, look for our launch of our new website coming up in the next month and a half to 2 months. We have a brand new website we're going to be launching. That's coming up soon, so we're really excited about that. That's going to be a much better platform for us. But other than that,
well, the next 3 days we are in the midst of Red Crest.
Yep.
So Red Crest is the Bass Pro Tour MLF guys championship. 300,000 to first place. They're on Grand Lake out in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Well, actually not in Tulsa, but they're in the vicinity of Tulsa.
Man, jellyworm.
And it's a big deal. So if you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, they just completed today their cut from 40 to 20. They're going to fish 10 tomorrow, 10 on Saturday, and that's going to create the top 10 on Sunday. And first place will take home $300,000.
Question on that, George. So I know they fished the last 2 days.
Full field.
Do those weights
Hang on, let me get the
zero?
whiteboard.
Does that mean today's zero now?
I think
No.
we're going to need a whiteboard on this to break this all down.
No, they
because-
fished yesterday and today. Now,
Crazy.
tomorrow will be what they call the knockout round. So they'll all start with, no weight, and there'll be a target goal. And they'll the first 5 to get to that goal fish on the championship day. And then on Saturday, they'll do the other 10 and then they'll fish on the championship day. So, whatever it is, I mean, it is what it is. That's how they play the game. But it's great TV. It's great learning opportunities for us as bass heads.
That's for sure.
These guys, apparently, if you're not Mr. Forward Seeking Sonar, you're not even in this tournament.
Yeah, they had a tough day today.
They did. They had a really tough. Well, some of them did.
Yeah.
Some of them didn't. Some of them were done early, and they pre-fished the rest of the day. Edwin Avers was fishing jerkbaits without hooks on them during a tournament that pays $300,000.
Why was he doing that? I mean,
Well, he's already qualified for the weekend,
oh, they have like
so
a
why
cut weight.
stick any more
They had a
fish?
cut weight. They had a cut weight. or
No,
something?
They were
but
just so far ahead.
He was so far
These
ahead.
guys had 60 pounds, and the cut was around 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was this morning he was like 35 pounds, and they projected 20 pounds would get you in.
Oh.
Well, he's like, I'm going to catch one fish and I'm going to go pre-fishing. And then Jacob Wheeler, who you said wasn't looking too good yesterday. Of course, you said that right before he caught a 6'10"
Yeah, he didn't have
and
that
went
six-
from last to third.
He didn't have that 6'10".
Well, he was pre-fishing all day. So we have a really good tournament here.
Well, Evers lives on that lake.
Well, he won the Bassmasters Classic there.
Way back in that back bay.
If you can tell me the name of that river he was in, I might be impressed.
The Coosa River.
Well, that is the name of a river, correct? Not the one
Is
he
it
was
that
in.
one?
No, that would be in Alabama. They're in Oklahoma. Somebody's going to jump on here.
Cherokee River.
Yeah, no, that's an Indian tribe.
Okay.
Well, it is the Grand Lake of the Cherokees,
Yes,
so you're close.
that's exactly why I said that.
Yeah,
Thanks, Alex, for making me not look like an
you're
idiot.
not that
And
far off.
Cherokee's where the opens are going.
Yeah.
It's not the name of the river that.
So what, George? So what? Not everybody.
No, you're the one that.
Not everybody's a geek like you, dude.
You started the competition.
Nerdly. You're the nerdly one.
I'm not
All
gonna
right,
tell
so Mark Snyder, yes, we have a lot. I was corrected. We have most of the Legend tournaments here in the shop right now. There's 3 of them
you. Yeah,
over
there's
there
only a couple that we don't have.
that we looked at, but we got all the good models. They're all here. They're all going to be brought out tomorrow. You guys can see them. We're having our large party from 3 to 6 p.m. here in the shop. Pizza, maybe some adult beverages. It's going to be a great time. We'll have it all mixed
We'll
up.
have the Red Crest on.
Red Crest will be streaming on our big screen over here.
Huge.
And we're going to have a great time. So make sure you guys stop by. We're going to shut this baby down, Alex. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, Alex.
So always nice to have you around.
We appreciate you swinging on by and joining in on the show. I know.
Alex Davis. Alex, thank you.
Why do you keep calling him Alex Davis?
Because I'm telling Alex Davis, I'm going to thank Alex Shmay for bringing us some beer.
Oh.
Now he knows for next time.
Well,
we had a good time with him last week.
if you look above
I watched.
Oh, we had so much fun with him.
if you look
He was
above
great.
the door to the bait room, there's quite a few baits hanging up there, and they're all signed. Every one of those is a different pro that's been here for an event.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
And-
think I'll do you any good if I sign a bait.
No, you're
That's
well. You're
not going to get you very far.
yeah. You're not signing any baits, but it's pretty impressive. And because we're us, we're freaks. We're bass
tournament
heads.
heads. We're tournament
And
heads.
our audience
They're all
is
these guys
hardcore.
are like,
So when we can get one of those guys to jump on the live, they love it. But
we're like giddy school kids.
I mean,
when they
look
show
at
up
that.
here.
Look at all them guys that are up there. Now we're gonna get a few more in this year, so the pile will grow.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Thanks, Charlie Enoch. Thank you, Brian Ward. Thank you, Stan Horn. Robert Bretz. Thanks a lot, buddy. Carl Walker, always, buddy. You're the man.
So guess what? Until tomorrow.
Until next time, we will see you guys at the next Tackle Shop Live. Thanks for stopping by.
Boom.
I don't know what was wrong with those speakers, those microphones. I unplugged that, plugged it back in, and I don't know. I could hear it. I could hear it fine. I think those guys were all on crack or something.
Well, we'll get back on track.
That's odd to me.
We'll get back on track now that we're done with all these events. We'll be able to get a little more planning in for our show. The reach that this show is getting is pretty big.
I've been.
yeah.
Oh my gosh! They answer it 30 seconds after we get on.
Sons of bitches!
How good are you?
Want a beer now, Alex?
I've been hiding one over here.
Since you're not drinking on the camera?
Yeah, I had. So Caleb had the 7-1 MHF,
You have an
Oh!
idea for next week.
and Pat
What?
was fishing
You
the
have an
7-4
idea at all
HF.
for next week.
Not really.
Yeah, now that we're done with our events, we can
Hello.
put a little more planning into Tackle Shop Live and make it dance a little more.
Hi, Kate.
There's only so many hours in the
There's no music, just us talking.
Oh, it is?
We were pulling
Okay.
well,
We didn't say anything, man. That's a good
We've been
thing.
pulling orders for 12 hours a day.
And you know what? That's
Yeah, this
good.
week.
We need to do it.
We're finally caught up.
Thank you.